How's it going? This is Michelle Thorne from D.A.M.E.S. Part of D.A.M.E.'s mission is to give empowerment to mothers and to give self-care tools to mothers who are raising special needs children. And today we are really honored as a part of our webinar series to have Jennifer Montgomery, I'm so sorry, Jennifer Montgomery online today to talk to us about self-care strategies, and the importance of taking care of yourself during this journey. So Jennifer has been working in this field as a therapist for 15 years, and I'm just so excited about all of the knowledge that we're going to learn today. Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored to be here and excited to be able to kind of be a part of this whole um, you know uh, program and you know group that you created. It's pretty amazing.
Thank you. So go ahead and pull up your PowerPoint and we'll get started.
So, hello everybody. My name is Jennifer Montgomery, and I am a licensed clinical social worker. Like Michelle said, I've been in practice for just about 15 years, and I have my own private practice out of Glendale, Arizona. And I really focus and specialize in both children and adults on the autism spectrum, as well as other social challenges and differences that individuals and families might be facing. Um, and I feel like this subject is so important because often families come into my office, parents, mothers, um, exhausted and just burnt out, basically, and they don't know what to do. And so, one of the first things that we talk about is, what is your support system? Because you are everybody's support system. Who is yours? And I feel like the idea of, you can't pour from an empty cup is truly um, something that holds a lot of meaning to these families and to these parents that come in, because they do feel pretty much like their cup is empty. And so we work on ways to kind of help fill that up again for them. So I will be speaking about the importance of practicing self care. Um, you know, Parenting can be stressful under the best of circumstances, with, a child that maybe is not special needs. There are so many stresses that we are dealing with kind of in this age and, in our society now. And then you add on, being a mom or a parent of a child with a developmental or a mental health challenge, and now you have to deal with a strain of a kind of a different magnitude. So caring for a child with special needs really can become a full-time job, and an overwhelming one, I think, at that. And so if you don't have the adequate support uh, without enough help, parents, moms, dads often feel like they are burning out, and that negatively affects everybody. So I'm here to talk about the impact on the caregiver, the mom, not only them, but also on how that impacts our children too. And then being able to share some different resources and different strategies to help fill your cup back up. Okay. So research is showing that parents and moms are showing higher levels of stress hormones. Um, Actually, research was done showing that moms were reporting higher levels of stress that was comparable to soldiers in combat, soldiers that were experiencing uh, post traumatic stress disorder as well, just to give you a picture of kind of how intense this stress is. Um, Another biological impact here is that the stress hormones, one of them being like cortisol, and CRP, which is a C-reactive protein. Um, there actually are biomarkers that are linked to colorectal cancer, to diabetes, to heart disease. So it really gives you an idea of how much stress can impact the body, and if we don't take care of that, what can happen. Um, Other biological impacts are insomnia. Just that stress does not allow you to produce the hormones to need to sleep, and so you just get um, in that state of um, kind of almost like fight or flight, where you just have to stay awake, and you can't relax. The body cannot relax. On the other side is that hypersomnia, which is excessive sleepiness um, during the day, and that can be even after a nap, or if you did get a full night's rest, still experiencing that excessive sleepiness, which obviously makes it really hard to function and be um, the mom, the parent that you want to be. Um, in addition, we have fatigue, low energy, poor appetite, or increased appetite. Oftentimes I have moms coming in here saying that they forgot to eat. They just missed meals because they were so busy taking care of their child or making phone calls, going to meetings, going to doctor's appointments, that you know food and meals were just kind of an afterthought. Or on the other side, you know, food can be used as sort of a self-soothing technique, where people tend to overeat because that helps them feel full, kind of just beyond just in their stomach, but just kind of feel that sense of filling themselves. And so we want to talk about other ways to kind of, again, give your body what it needs so it really can function at its best. Okay. So now we're going to go into the psychological impact of stress in raising, children or a child with special needs. So, oftentimes, anxiety can be extremely high, and anxiety, I think, can reach moms on different levels, kind of different triggers. A recent study showed that mothers of children with um, kids with special needs actually were reporting higher levels of anxiety than fathers of children with special needs. And I think that could be because mothers tend to be the primary caregiver. Not always, but again, I think um, moms do take on that role, and just the anxiety about now, and the anxiety about the future, and what their child is going to be able to do. Making sure that they have enough help and resources to make their child um, comfortable, or um, feeling successful. So anxiety is huge, as we know. Depression. you know, and I want to kind of talk a little bit about how clinical depression um, is different than situational depression. Um, and so, just to give kind of a brief overview of the difference there, clinical depression is defined more as like a biological based symptom, where it would be present regardless of the individual circumstances or satisfaction with life. It's just part of again, their biology, how that was kind of just formed part of their system. Where situational depression tends to be developed more as a reaction to prolonged exposure to chronic stress, or physical, or emotional, or environmental. You know, in addition, it could also be the result of significant life changes, losses, um, things like that, different challenges. So those are two differences in the two different types of depression. Parents of children with special needs tend to be faced with a real continuous barrage of challenges, from societal isolation, financial strain, difficulty finding resources, just confusion about what to do, what's the best decision, am I doing the right thing? And so, what we see is that over time, if these circumstances are not addressed and the relief is not found um, in some way, the the actual biological change may start to take place. And so the chemicals in the brain, um, such as like serotonin and dopamine, they actually regulate kind of our responses to pleasure and hurt and help us kind of navigate our emotions. Um, Research is showing that they're beginning that if that prolonged stress does not get resolved, then it can actually begin to decrease those hormones that we want, the serotonin and dopamine begin to decrease as we kind of chronically experience negative emotions and situations. So it is so important that we really work towards um, relieving ourselves of that so that we don't develop or kind of come to what would have been a situational depression to more of now changing the chemistry in our brain to make it a clinical depression. If we don't, it becomes harder and harder for individuals to kind of bounce back or return to that normal functioning. And so we really want to be aware that exposed, the longer that we are exposed, I should say, to stress or negative emotions and thinking, the less we're kind of able to cope with those feelings. So I know that was kind of a long talk there on depression, but I felt it was important to address that and how it really can have a pretty profound effect on us if we don't address it. Another psychological impact is low self-esteem, feelings of being an inadequate parent. And I think lots of parents, regardless if you're parenting a child with special needs or not, I think most good parents out there at one time or another kind of have that feeling of, am I doing enough? Am I providing my child enough support? um, you know and just kind of that, am I good enough as a mom? Again, guilt plays into it. I have parents coming into my office and just the guilt of, am I able to protect my child? Am I um and am I doing enough? And the guilt of, am I giving my other children that might not have special needs enough attention? The guilt of, my other child has to sit in doctor's appointments all the time with me, or, I'm always gone, or, I had to miss maybe their school performance because I was attending, a meeting or something for my other child. And so there can be a lot of guilt that plays into that. Also the guilt of, am I not giving enough attention to my spouse? Uh, I think something else that moms and parents too probably don't really always want to talk about or admit, but it is, I think, important that we talk about it, is the jealousy or resentment that can happen, that you might feel when you go out, to the park or to the museums and you see other families with children that, quote unquote, look typical. And it's kind of the guilt of feeling jealous or resentment to them. Why do they have it so easy? Why are they able just to quick, get in the car and show up and go, and they're not having, the meltdown or all the challenges that I'm having out right now. And so the guilt of those feelings as well. Grief plays a big part in it too. That's something that we talk about in my office a lot with parents. It's the grief process, truly, of maybe the hopes and dreams that you did have for your child, and having to kind of reconcile the fact that that might not be what the picture looks like. It wasn't maybe what you had imagined parenting would be like, but this is what it is. And being able to kind of grieve the loss of what maybe you had imagined or thought it was going to be, and truly what it is now. That's an important thing for parents to be able to work through, just kind of on a individual basis with me in session. Typically parents, when we're meeting, we'll have one-on-one sessions. I meet with the parents as much as I do with the children too, because it is a family system and we need to address everybody in the family, not just the child. In addition, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in some later slides, is the psychological impact of having poor concentration. Um, Parents, moms not being able to, focus because their mind is going 100 miles an hour in 50 different directions. It also can make it very difficult to make decisions sometimes. Just the questioning of yourself, wondering, am I doing the right thing? All of that plays into it. Okay. And the social impact. Oftentimes moms will report that they really do feel lonely. They feel like it's, them against the world, or their child and them against the world, and they don't have the support, friends, maybe before they had uh, children, would invite them to go out and hang out, and now they stop getting invited places. People kind of tend to maybe walk away because they don't think that uh, the family, would be able to go where they're going, or it would just be too stressful. So we'll just, not invite her, or she's probably got too much going on. Let's not invite her out. So that loneliness and that kind of societal isolation is very real. In addition, marital problems. It's really, really hard when you have a spouse or a partner that is having different opinions on maybe how to parent the child and what is best. Um, and that can put a lot of strain on a marriage as well. Um, Making sure to really kind of nurture that marriage is really important. Something that you guys can do. And we talk about how parents need to really make it a point to maintain that relationship and be able to kind of make sure that their marriage is existing outside of just being the role. Sorry about that. And we just want to make sure that that is a focus as well. So the next, was going into the financial strain. If it's a two-parent home and one parent, is having to stay home, because like we talked about, raising a special needs child can be and is a full-time job. And um, that doesn't really allow for two parents to go out and work. And so there can definitely be that financial strain that exists, not being able to have that dual income, or if it's, you're looking at a single parent home and a mom maybe who's staying home, that puts, you can imagine, even more financial strain in the home, and all the resources and the um, doctor's appointments, the therapies, everything that is required to help the child. Okay, so we're going to move into how parents and caregivers stress impacts children. There's a child psychologist. His name is Dr. Stuart Shanker, and he actually talks about how we are parenting in an age of toxic stress levels, and I truly do believe that we are. The things that our society requires now, as far as just the immediate, everything needs to be done, you know, right now, and it's there is no time wasted here. We have to keep, just kind of living in this real demanding electronic kind of based world. It can be very toxic to our systems. And so in his book, it's called Self-Regulation: How to Help Your Child and You Break the Stress Cycle and Successfully Engage with Life. So in this book, he talks about something called emotional co-regulation. Basically what that is that child's brain kind of co-regulates with the prefrontal cortex, front of the brain, of the primary caregiver. So, and he says this because our children's, brains are not fully, the prefrontal cortex, I should say, of our child's brain is not fully developed. And so, because it's not, when it's with this significant adult in their life, it tends to kind of co-regulate with them. He actually kind of said, it was interesting, I felt that he said that it was almost like a Bluetooth, where he calls it the interbrain connection with the child, and how he said that the brains sync up kind of like a Bluetooth or a wireless connection between the children and adults. And so you can imagine that if you're super stressed, how that is going to kind of seep into the nervous system of our children, and just how important it is for us to be able to kind of manage our own stress so that we don't pour that into our children, increasing their stress levels, and kind of exacerbating what they might already be experiencing. So we talked about how our children are our mirrors. Kind of what that means is that they show us our stress levels, which can be kind of a scary thing when you when you look at your child and you say, "Oh my goodness, like they are super stressed right now and having such a hard time right now. Let me look at myself and let me do kind of a check-in and say, okay, what is my stress level right now? Am I kind of off the charts? Am I way high on that? How could that be kind of contributing to my child's stress?" And so if you notice that your child's maybe more calm and things are kind of just functioning a little bit easier, could that be because maybe you're having more of kind of a softer or compassionate approach? And how is that helping the child, your child? Next screen. Hopefully that went into that. All right, so the next thing I wanted to talk about, is self-compassion and what that means. And so first, let me just kind of speak to this. There was a recent study done that showed that many parents are overworked and exhausted, which we know. But according to this study that was done, it showed that moms work an average of 98 hours per week with very minimal free time. The average mom only gets 17 minutes of free time to herself each day. That is not a lot. That's when you are working a 98-hour per week. Um, you know, that is just awful. I mean, that would be against the law if you were in a job outside of the home. If you work, I think over 8 hours, you're required to have like a 40 or 30-minute break a day. So that would be way over the limit there. So the importance of self-compassion and kind of what that means and what that looks like. It says here to become a peaceful warrior. It's like, well, what does that mean exactly? Well, when you are parenting a special needs child, it requires us to kind of have a fight in us, and you kind of almost come at it from the position of being kind of that warrior and just using all that energy and kind of parenting to kind of take on all of the stress in the day and what's going to come your way. And so you know, it would the article here was saying that it would really be different in a positive way if we parented maybe using all of that energy um, and use it to help fill our tanks with kind of exceptional compassion towards ourselves, and being able to really be mindful of filling our tanks every day and showing ourselves compassion. Um, Part of that is being able to develop, a kind inner voice. I call it, positive self-talk. Um, Giving yourselves those praises, being able to kind of have that inner dialogue with yourself, being able to say, you know what, I'm doing a great job. Giving yourself that praise, I think, is something that a lot of moms, especially, don't do, and that's very important to be able to give that to yourself. Talk about kind of doing something good for yourself. It really does go beyond just buying yourself a special gift or treat. Yes, those things are nice, absolutely. But if that's kind of solely what you're relying on, um, I think that's just kind of hitting the surface. And you know something here that was coined self-care light. It just doesn't cut it. And that's kind of like going to the spa. Yes, the spa is amazing, and it's wonderful to be able to do that, as a special treat, and to have that, relaxation there. But when you go out and do that, and then you come back into the same stressful, possibly, chaos of the home, and just all the busy kind of responsibilities and jobs, all that going on, it kind of doesn't really set yourself up for the best self care, in the sense that being able to give yourself that, and being able to kind of have that peace or compassion for yourself, self care practice, to be able to do that in the home so that you can manage those stressful moments in the moment, as opposed to coming back and not having any coping skills there. So, we also want to talk about consciously inviting positives into your life, acknowledging positives and celebrating those successes, no matter how small they are. Really celebrating those successes, I think, give um, can give so much back to you and the family. Listing things to be grateful for. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into some of the self care strategies, but being able to just acknowledge the things that we are grateful for, can really turn some of that negative mentality that happens into positive. Okay, so here's some basic self-care practices. Sleep. Sleep is so essential to so many different things in our lives, and I think if we don't give ourselves that sleep, it can really have a negative impact on not only our physical health, our mental health, emotional health, everything. So, recommended is 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It is important that we do sleep so that if we don't, that sleep disruption really starts to affect our levels of stress hormones as well as our the neurotransmitters. If that gets if those levels get too high, it really begins to impair our thinking and our emotional regulation. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with difficulty making decisions, difficulty kind of concentrating and focusing on things. Oftentimes, with that sleep disruption, it begins to impair our thinking and our emotional regulation at nighttime or during the day, I should say, sorry. Staying hydrated, again, that's something that's pretty important, is being able to, um, just drink enough water, that helps, just the body feel better, helps kind of flush out toxins as well. So, very important to remember that. Healthy nutrition. There was a research done by Harvard Medical School, and they made up a term called food mood connection. I thought that was pretty interesting. They wrote an article called Nutritional Psychiatry, Your Brain on Food. And it talks about the connection between the food that we eat and our mood, and how it really does help, and how um, the serotonin that the hormone, or sorry, the chemical serotonin, regulates our sleep, our mood, and our appetite. Something I was not aware of, but through my research here, I found that 95% of our serotonin produced is in the gastrointestinal tract. So the inner workings of our digestive tract helps digest our food, but also guides our emotions. So how important it is for us to really be aware of the food that we're putting in our bodies and how that has an impact on our mood and our emotions. And so they talked about the importance of taking like probiotics that really can help with that, supporting a healthy gastrointestinal tract, as well as eating whole foods or clean food eating. So um, the article really recommended the importance of staying away from too much processed foods, things that aren't giving your body what it needs for, just obviously good health, but also for your mood as well. Getting regular exercise, very important. And this doesn't have to be, spending an hour at the gym, every day. Exercise could be just going for, a nice leisurely walk. It's just getting that exercise. It helps release those endorphins. It gets you moving, kind of gets you feeling like you're alive, productive, being, productive. It's just good for the mind, body, and soul. And then spending time away from the children. And that's something I think a lot of parents do feel guilty about. They worry that if they're spending time away from their child, that nobody else is going to be able to take care of their child the way that they do. Um, what if their child needs something and they're not there? But it is important to take that time for yourself. Don't let it be that you are the only person that can handle your child. They might, the other person, maybe whether it's a family member or babysitter, might not handle things the way specifically that you would. But if you give them enough instructions, they will be able to handle it, and you'll have that time, that much needed time away. Um, and that doesn't mean going out and doing chores or errands for your child. This is considered me time. All right. It does take a village. It truly does. And don't be afraid to ask for help. I think sometimes moms especially feel that, it's their job and they should just be able to handle everything, and they don't want to ask for help, or they don't know how to ask for help, or, you know, and I think parents especially feel that if they do ask for help, that no one's going to want to, and no one offers to help. So what, I don't want to intrude, or I don't want to bother anybody. And I think sometimes that family members or close friends, maybe they do want to help, but they just don't know how. And so to really kind of be specific about what your requests are. Can you stay with my child while I take my other child to a doctor's appointment at this time? Can you help me pick up groceries, or run this specific errand for me? I think people respond better when they have a specific task, as opposed to just, oh yeah, let me know if you need any help. Well, what does that mean? It's really kind of having to be more directive. Proposing babysitting exchanges. I think that's a wonderful idea. Letting, supporting other families. You take their children maybe for, a few hours, in the evening, so that you and a friend, or you and your partner or spouse, can go out and, just have a nice uninterrupted, dinner out. Finding a support network outside the immediate family. Oftentimes the immediate family means well, but maybe they might not truly know what you're going through. And so finding other families out there that have similar challenges or similar experiences to what you're having, creates a really good support system for you and your family. Also, online and in-person support groups. A couple that I would recommend would be Raising AZ Kids, the AZ Arizona Autism Coalition, and the Family Involvement Center. Those are some support groups that can really help with the support and just sort of the understanding um, that is needed. So here are some self-care strategies. And this does not mean that there's not others out there. These are just some of the ones that I wanted to highlight. And those would be, journaling for 20 minutes, in the evening, just kind of reflecting on the day, you know, maybe reflecting also on what goals or things that you want to um, work towards. Things that really felt good during the day. Just kind of releasing whatever it is that happened during the day and putting it down on paper. Writing down 3 things that are stressing you, and then identify a single action step to relieve each one. I think that is a constructive way to handle stress things, as opposed to it feeling um, something that you can't fix. Being able to actually take more action to that, and writing them down, and then it kind of gives you that guide of, okay, this is what I'm going to do. It feels productive. Write down one goal or intention for the week. Make sure that those goals are definitely attainable. You don't want to set yourself up for failure by writing down a goal that is too lofty, or that is just maybe just uh, going to take more than a week to accomplish. You want to make sure that it's something that you're going to be able to look back on at the end of the week and say, great, I did this. This is wonderful. Even if it's something like, I'm going to plant, new flowers in the flower bed. Or we're going to have a goal of being able to drive to, let's say, a friend's house and have a play date. Or we're going to have a goal of um, being able to go swimming, whatever that is, or the intention for the week. Plan a special one-on-one date with your child. And that can be something like going to the park, going for a bike ride, um, going to the library with him or her. Whatever would be something special and fun for you to do that doesn't involve having to do a chore or task, but just something that is fun. Download these different gratitude apps, and you record what you're thankful for. And they're guided, so I think that would be helpful. Some of the ones that I recommend is called Grateful. It's a gratitude journal. Another gratitude app is called Gratitude Happiness Journal. Another technique or strategy for self-care is doing meditation, doing just a short meditation. Some of the guided meditations that I recommend are Headspace, which I put on here. Another one is called Calm, and another one is called Insight Timer. Wonderful guided meditation apps that are short that you can use throughout the day. Following the 3 rule, that just means being aware of 3 things that you are looking forward to. I use this with kids and with adults. It's important to be aware of things that you are looking forward to be able to kind of have that optimism, that kind of excitement thing to think about when times are tough. When you're having a stressful moment. Okay, what are 3 things that I'm really looking forward to? Kind of gives you a little bit of that recharge, that kind of sense of okay, you know what, I can get through this because this is what's coming up ahead, and I'm excited about that. Respite care, absolutely something that parents should be utilizing, and that is really just kind of short term care, and that gives you a break, gives parents a break, families a break from the daily responsibilities, and it's not something that parents mean that they're just kind of giving over their parental responsibilities of their child. It's just a short break so that your child can kind of have some time away too, and you get that time to sort of recharge as well. Nurturing your marriage or partnerships, like I mentioned earlier, so important to take that time to be with your partner or your spouse outside of being a parent, just being you know uh you know 2 partners out, husband and wife out together, not 2 parents out. Before bedtime, sharing the highlight and the low light of the day. This is something actually that I practice every night, um, and I do that with my daughter. We call it our highs and lows, but it's something that we do, and then we also actually include grateful in there. So we'll start with one thing that was the highlight of our day, one thing that we were grateful for that happened in the day, and a low light too, just to kind of talk about the things that maybe we didn't like, or that didn't feel good today, so that maybe we can kind of keep that in mind to prevent that, or avoid that tomorrow or the next day. All right. Well, there's my information there. Like I said, I have a private practice in Glendale, and I welcome anybody to look at my website, or feel free to call or email with any questions or feedback. Um, and I really enjoyed being here today, and I hope that you all were able to gain some new information and ideas, and that would, I guess, conclude my presentation for the day.
Hey,
Michelle,
Jennifer, thank you. Thank you so much for that. I think having two children with autism and really kind of going through this journey, a lot of what you had to say really spoke to me because I have been there.
yeah,
um, so it was kind of reassuring to hear a lot of the things that I know that I have dealt with are also things that you have seen in your clients who have come to you. And it's
yep.
like, okay, awesome. Like, I'm not the only person in the world who's ever felt this way.
Nope.
Um,
Every week, I hear and and talk about these topics.
yeah. And I also like that you kind of talked about the difference between like self care light and then what self care is. Cause I feel like right now self care is kind of getting a bad rap, right? Because people are like, self care isn't just like you said, like going to the spa or having a day. And maybe you need that. Maybe you need that like 10 minutes of, peaceful thoughts. You're not thinking about anything else, but you also need the deeper self care.
Right.
And that's kind of what we tried to create at Dames. It was how do you get access to that deeper self care? How do you get
Yeah.
access to guided meditations, to your community, to that physicality that you need, that
Yeah.
exercise?
Yes. That's why I love your organization, because I think it is just so essential to good, just kind of mental health for moms, but just kind of that sense of community. We need that, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. No, I thought that that was really great. And I love all of the self care tips that you gave. They're
So
very
good.
doable. They're very achievable.
Yeah.
You can do those things. You can set small goals and reward yourself and applaud
Yeah.
yourself for accomplishing them.
That feels good. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really great. I love the idea of the babysitting exchange. I've never thought of that. That I was like, huh, that totally makes sense. That's gonna I'm gonna call up Alyssa after this and do
Yeah,
some
there you
babysitting
go.
exchanges with her.
Start calling people up.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I like the idea too of making sure that you take time for yourself. So in our family, Matt and I have non-negotiable night outs. So Monday night he gets a night out. Tuesday night I get a night out. And you can do whatever you want during that night out, but it's
Yeah.
your night out and you
Yeah.
need to recharge yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
yeah,
you know
so
being with and I think just kind of even like being out with other moms, or friends, even it doesn't have to be other moms, it could just be other friends that you have that don't have kids. I think that it's important to get out and not just talk about your kids and talk about, well, what do you do in this situation, and I mean there's a time for that, absolutely, but I think it's also so important that you have time away, not just as a mom, but you have time away as just a woman, and or a, however, as a girlfriend, as a friend, someone that you're just kind of you, and you take that time out of that role, because we are more than just moms. Something we often forget, but yes. Yeah,
definitely. And something more than just moms with special needs kids.
absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because you get wrapped up in the special needs talk and then you're like, oh, I'm exhausted. Like, I didn't have a break. Like,
Right, right, exactly, exactly.
yeah.
So
No, I really appreciate you being here. Really insightful, some really great tips. I learned a lot. I had no clue about that whole child development with the prefrontal cortex, and
yes.
that was fascinating.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I agree too. When I was kind of going into more of that, it was pretty eye opening.
hmm
Yeah,
and
and
after
how uh,
Yeah, and after you said it, I was like, "Oh, that kinda makes sense." Because I used to get so raged when my kids would be acting up, and now I just sit next to them and I deep breathe deeply, and I
yes,
calm myself, and then all of a sudden they're calm, and it's like, "Oh, I just like I
yep,
magically did that."
yeah,
It's
yes,
a Jedi mind trick.
yes. Your brains are syncing. It's that Bluetooth connection that they talked about. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So super, super fascinating, super insightful. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I was so happy that you invited me on.
Yeah, no, thank you. Have a great day today.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.